Okay, Dave, you can shut up.
We need a theme song.
Okay, alright, if you shut up right now, Dave, we are, of course, live. Welcome, everybody, to episode 2 of the DRTcast. As always, I'm Shadow Wings, and with some of my other fellow people. Dave, if you could shut up for a minute.
What's your theme music, though?
We don't even have a theme music yet. It's just
And
some
whose
audio.
fault is that? Whose fault is that?
It's pretty much all of our faults, but Cyber, you probably need to jump on that.
Oh, Cyber, yeah, it's pointing at you. You're texting. We can blame everything on you.
Alright, I'll sing something later.
Okay, anyways.
Sorry.
Okay, you can shut up. Alright, anyways. Welcome, everybody. It is the DRTcast for July 11th. World QCK, whatever, WCQ Day is what it's called. For those that don't know, today is World Championship qualifiers over in Detroit, Michigan. We'll be talking a little bit about that here in a little bit. But first, let's go ahead and start off with a couple of the co-hosts other than myself. And we'll start off with the usuals. As always, Cyber and Dave are with us today.
Hello.
Hi.
So how are you guys today?
I am okay. So I just got insulted a few times, so I'm still kind of recovering from that, but, so cool.
And I had to do a bunch of pack openings before this, so tired.
Oh, boo-hoo. Boo freaking who. You poor Cybernet had to open up packs and packs of playing
The paper
cards.
cuts.
You poor soul.
You know how much blood I've lost from the paper cuts.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm sure.
It's like world problems. You usually see on the news about disasters happening somewhere in Iraq, and over somewhere in Texas, Cyber Knight cuts his finger, and the entire YouTube community just flips out.
It may just be me, but the live stream itself is not loading for me. So an error has occurred. Please try again later. Maybe it's because I'm actually in the podcast.
Well, I mean, the event is still live right now, and
I mean, you use a different browser.
There's going to be a lag.
It's not really a lag. It's just it doesn't work. It's just not working.
It might be just for you because it's working for me.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna go on a different browser. I'm gonna use the one I use for porn. Firefox, I go.
Okay. And also, with us last week, we did say that there was going to be another member, a part of the podcast, but unfortunately, their computer had basically broke down on them, right as soon as the recording had started. With us this week for his first recording is Gary Romans, a local Yu-Gi-Oh! Representative of the gaming shop that's over here. So just say hi, Gary.
Hi, how are you guys doing?
This is probably one of our favorite people that comes over to our locals about every week, and he's basically one of the favorites. He usually plays Constellars, and what are some of the other ones you play?
Oh, that's really sweet, first of all, thank you. Yeah, I play Constellars and just miscellaneous decks like Geargia occasionally, and Space Cash
Geargia.
Delivery, all the fun stuff,
Oh, Geargia. Oh.
Oh, cry.
Oh.
Yeah, after
I didn't even play. It was the last deck I played before I quit, and oh.
I mean, it's just, I played it before it was cool. I'm a hipster, I know.
Yeah.
And then it got cool, and then I said, well, that's not good for me anymore, so, Constellars, you call it, so.
Constellars are the nuts.
Yeah, first turn Pleiades, can you even handle it? I'm going to have problems against current meta, Constellar players in general.
Hat wrecks that deck.
Summon
Sadly.
Pleiades. Okay, we'll banish Eclipse Waver and add JD, summon JD. It's like, response. It's like, oh, okay. Game 2.
Nah. I ain't got
Let's
nothing.
cry.
I ain't about that.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest thing for Worlds. I should just say Nationals is that that deck is probably going to be in the top 10 by far. But we'll get to that here in just a minute. But just a friendly reminder to those that are listening to the podcast right now live, you can send over your questions as usual over to the official Gmail account, which is duelistoftheroundtable@gmail.com. Just be sure to include your username and your question. It can be for any of us, or it can be for all four of us that are currently in this room right now. So
Mostly
we're
just
going to
me,
go
but you know.
ahead and begin discussion number 1, which we already got done with Gary's introduction. But since Starter Deck 2014 was released today, or if it was released early yesterday for some people that were lucky enough to get it, you're an ass. But yeah, this new deck is basically the introduction to pendulums, and there's been complaints about it before when they were announced, and people flipped by the fact that, you know, it's like over accounting of like special summons, and there's like people, you know, already exposing like different card tech choices to side deck against these certain builds that use them. And I guess let's just go ahead and go over certain like cards that are in this deck. You know, each starter deck is usually different. However, the monsters are usually not some of the best because they mostly splash in like random vanillas compared to like some effect monsters, but they do have them. We're going to talk about some of the pendulums. Stargazer and Time Gazer Magician, those are the only 2 pendulums that are in there. And they basically have their little pendulum scales where it's like, you know, one has 1 scale and then the other has 8, and then you special summon any monster from 2 to 7 once per turn. Let's see, there's some of these, like, I'm not really sure if we can consider it an archetype or not, but there's apparently these cards called Empowered Warrior. They each have their own different effects. One's a flip effect monster, the other are just regular effect monsters. And then there's like, let's see, probably one of the other only cards that people are probably going to be splashing in other builds is Supply Squad, which that's really good for scraps because that's like, you know, just really dumb draw power that they get like each turn unless somebody MSTs it or plays some stupid thing like what's that? Malevolent Catastrophe I'm thinking of? The trap card?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because that can really like screw up like, I don't know, just like so many different decks. Unless you're playing artifacts and that's something else. Monster Reincarnation got a reprint, that's always good. Lucky Iron Axe is very weird to see in here. Ego Boost is probably one of those quick plays that I've seen like every now and then, but to see it in a starter deck, that's something completely different. Poison of the Old Man got a reprint. Dark Factory Mass Production got a reprint. That's actually, you know, something you don't ever see too often. Shadow Spell, that's a very odd one. Hero Merges. I can't pronounce it, I'm sorry. That one's new. Soul Resurrection, that one's also new in a while. And Magic Jammer is very weird to see. But I could probably see Magic Jammer maybe being splashed one day, but there's like a lot of different cards that usually run over it. Like, what's the other one? Wiretap is one that people play a lot more of now. And Seven Tools, they don't usually play more of anyways, because, you know, Wiretap's one of the other obvious cards. Aside from that, there really isn't, like, you know, anything game-changing that people are going to be playing constantly unless somebody finds some card in here that is going to be exposed for being too broken. But other than that, it's a decent start for people looking to just get into the game. And it also included with it are 2 special packs that have the chance to be able to pull two different ultra rares. One of them is a ultra rare Dark Hole and a ultra rare On Eyes Dragon, which is going to be in the next set, which will be out in the coming months, and maybe August.
Yeah, it's August.
That
What
card's
was
gonna
it,
be so expensive.
Yeah, it's August. It's going to be kind of a pain to get. It works well with the Time Gazer and Stargazer as well.
Because the what was it? The Pendulum Dragon is going to be in there, which is probably going to be one of the top cards that everybody's going to try to go after because it's just a Rhoda for Pendulums.
I mean, that's just E-Dragon stuff, like right there. A level 7 that
You get those,
searches
like,
dragon.
You activate your Pendulum effects, and then you special summon it out, and then just overlay and do some stupid stuff from there.
Just from one big guy
Other
was
than
not
that,
enough.
do you guys have anything to add about the starter deck?
Not really. I mean, they're not going to be. They're cool, but they're not going to be like that amazing.
Yeah, I was gonna say about the same thing. The starter deck, it's really good that we finally have our pendulums, out in the open now. But I don't really think, these are our generic pendulums for now, and just like XYZs and synchros, it's gonna be a while before we get the really, really broken cards, that end up getting banned like Zenmaity and like Shockmaster and such.
The big issue with them, actually said in the last podcast, the big issue with them is that they already demand. Like, they already take away from your hand, and if you play the game and you're just okay, I'm gonna play one, I'll wait for the other one, then I'll play that one when I get it. You're for one thing, you're still taking away from your hand, and you're leaving yourself open for something to kill it. And even when you do kill it, who is to say that whatever you don't have in your hand already, like spells and traps, aren't going to get in the way? So basically the only really effective way to use them is to use a really searchable or really monster heavy deck.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Even that, it has to be full of beaters.
Basically, they just need to go with the art type you're using. That's why in Next Challengers, we're getting art types that are good, that you can build a deck around, that also have pendulums in the art type. That's really the only we're going to see them. A lot of people, I've seen a lot of negative actually on the starter deck, and it's kind of like what you guys said too. It's basically just a way to introduce pendulums. They're not going to be that great. The starter deck that came with synchros, exceeds, they were kind of they're just kind of getting you used to it and to how they work, but they're not going to give us the strongest ones because it would be too confusing for new players, plain and simple.
Yeah.
But once we start getting art types that are actually based on everything, then things will be different. Because, like I even said last time, pendulums aren't like Xyzs and synchros. They can't really be mixed in with most decks. Xyzs could go with any art type, anything. Pendulums are different. That deck has to kind of be based around them to really work. And we're just going to have to wait a little bit, probably till, like I said, next Challengers, and then we'll start really seeing pendulums do more.
Yeah, because I remember when, which set was it? I think it was Crossroads of Chaos when Black Rose Dragon was first introduced, that there was, what was it, Morphtronics, when they were being introduced as a very synchro-heavy type deck, and it was one of the first, almost trying to be competitive type build. And I wish they would actually release more support for that type of deck, as much as any other builds that I've basically kept up with for years. But yeah, it starts off slow because the first few sets are always going to be slow on introducing new cards that people can splash in builds for that certain type of monster. But it will pretty much catch up with us maybe about 4 or 5 sets in, and we'll pretty much be pretty okay with these cards rather than just, oh my god, these things are going to be so broken to the point that I just want to get out of the game.
No, there is a pendulum ice barrier deck, and you have your Guntalas and your the one I can't remember her name, but anyway, there's a lot of level 7 ice barriers, and then you have Odd Eyes searching for your pendulums, and you have your Medallion searching for your ice barriers, and you have this handful of these essentially locking cards for your opponent. I mean, it's pretty. It's going to be. I don't think it's going to be a really big deal, but I think it's going to be at least notable, especially if you've ever looked at Dance Princess.
Yeah, Dance Princess.
I love Dance
One of my
Princess.
favorites. Oh, go ahead, Dave.
Oh no, I just said I love Dance Princess.
Oh yeah, it's ridiculous. Reveal any number of ice barrier monsters in your hand and bounce. I believe it's spell and trap cards.
Yes.
It's essentially a giant Trunade. I mean, you just reveal. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Unless it's if you were playing against artifacts for your match with ice barriers, but what is his name? Ryo, or whatever his actual name. It's General Ryo, which his effect is in order for your opponent to activate monster effects, they have to discard a card from their hand. So that basically is, I don't know if I could call it a plus, because it does affect your opponent and it makes them like lose card advantage at the same time. So they have a choice to either drop a card to use the effect, or they need these cards for a certain play that they're going to do next turn. So it depends like how it's going to do later on, but I really do see in like Ice Barriers doing something, maybe even Crystal Beast, like it's just an extra carbuncle type of card effect to like to special summon as many monsters out. And Crystal Beast, they had Xyz coming out, and that's what slightly helped them out. But eventually, there will be old decks that they've been doing for like Scraps and Pocket Mirrors, and that stuff's really boosted them up pretty well. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what sets come out with like some interesting new cards. But for right now, it's the perfect way for people to get used to pendulums until the new stuff comes out. Okay, so moving on with the list. Now this was something that was brought up to me, and we were talking about this a little bit before the start of the podcast, and it was a topic that somebody had posted up on the Facebook page about money and Yu-Gi-Oh, and this has been like probably one of the more common topics since like the start of the game, obviously. Whether it be competitive or just for getting started and such. The question that they were wondering is like, is money the only way to get started into Yu-Gi-Oh? And I say that it's a mixture of yes and no. If you're looking to just get started playing, I mean, you can basically borrow a friend's deck and just see like if you like that certain type of archetype, or you can basically just use some of the money that you have, buy 3 structure decks, and just use that as a deck until you start to buy packs and buy singles and stuff like that. So, in competitive sense, it will get expensive, but at the same time, I'm pretty sure you can still budget yourself out because, what was it? One of the guys at Mining Gary's Local, his name is Justin Pratt, and I remember like a couple of months ago, he would want everything the highest rarity, which you'd be like spending like mad crazy money unless it was like majority trades with just cards. So recently he found out that money was getting really tight with him, and he wanted to pretty much go with the cheapest alternative rare cards just so he could basically have the stuff. And I think that should really matter to a lot of people, that if you're wanting this stuff, and this is kind of like on a collective sense, like if you're collecting NES games, like everyone knows that stuff's expensive. You're trying to get every single game. If you wanted to get the box stuff, you would be paying like out of the butt pocket just for like complete box items. But if you wanted to just get the games just to have them, then getting loose stuff is like multiple times cheaper than actually getting them complete. So that term is also used for Yu-Gi-Oh as well, because if you're wanting this stuff to have it in deck to play competitively, then I would say cheaper is probably the best alternative, unless your alternative has to be that rare, like ultra rare, ulti rare, secret rare card that is not a super rare that's in the tin yet or whatever. So it just varies depending on the type of deck it is, or if it does have that super rare version of it that's in the tin. So do any of y'all have anything to say about that?
Well,
Oh, you
here you go. No, you're good. I have a big rant, so you can go.
Oh, okay. Well, I was just gonna say, as far as getting started in Yu-Gi-Oh, now that you have, we have things like Dev Pro, Yu-Gi-Oh Pro, and we have Dueling Network. Like, there are a lot of ways for you to get into the game and be, competitive in the game, but just on a more of a online sense. So yeah, there are ways to get into the game, without money. But if you're gonna play, at your locals, or you're gonna play, with physical cards, you're going to have to put money in. Period. Like, there's no way around it unless you're just, gonna rob someone.
And that's it's funny that you actually brought up like Dev Pro and Yu-Gi-Oh Pro, is that it's a good way for people to actually play test stuff before actually buying this, because if you buy the cards before playtesting, then if it like fails in tournament play, then you're probably gonna be wasting that money on cards that you can't seem to use properly in the deck. So I think that that's like a really good way for people to actually get used to the stuff before actually going out there and playing this stuff in a like league-like play.
Also, there are budget decks that you can actually make. I mean, if you don't really care about rarity and stuff as much. But I do agree, it's basically, like you were saying, it's kind of half and half. I mean, I guess the top decks will always be expensive and stuff, and if you want to go with those, of course, you're going to have to spend some money, because basically just, demand on them, so they're going to be worth a lot of money. But there are lots of budget decks out there that actually can compete with the top tiers pretty well. I mean, for example, I think Gustos is actually one of the stronger decks out there that doesn't get much attention. I mean, Cam's probably the most expensive card in there, and that's like $10 each. I don't really consider that to be too high, but I guess some people could. And, I mean, there's some other alternatives out there too, so... And, of course, like I was saying, you can even get into the game by playing, Dueling Network, Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro, Dev Pro, whatever, and that's another way, you don't have to really spend a dime and just play on that even, if you want to do that.
Yeah, that's what I've seen a lot of people returning to playing the game. Like, they would play decks that they were playing back in 2007 or 2008, and they'd be playing against, like, other players that would be playing, like, the best decks in the game right now. But yeah, I mean, it's better to like just do playtesting online before actually getting the stuff. But anyways, go ahead, Dave. We talked over you.
One more thing I wanted to say, if that's all right. Also, I think Konami is getting better on this kind of stuff too. I think that higher dollar cards are getting reprinted a little bit quicker. I feel like it's getting there. It's not as good as we want it to be, but I feel like even with like the Noble Knight thing that's coming out, this November, where you can get the full deck and hollow form and everything with a box. I feel like, they're trying to kind of make it where you can pretty much buy a deck that is pretty good, which hopefully that Noble Knight thing will be good, I guess. Still wondering about the Merlin card and the other cards that's going to be included. So I guess time will tell if that's actually going to be tournament ready or not. But I do feel like we're starting, even with the Megatins that are coming out and all this stuff lately that's been coming out, I think Konami is listening at least, and maybe things will get a little bit better on card prices too within next year or so.
Anyways, go ahead, Dave.
Well, like I said, like you do need money, but I'm gonna sound like a big dick saying this because like I don't ever want to discourage like new people from playing just because like money is a big issue. But when it comes down to it, you have to start from somewhere, and even if you have like because a large percentage of people will either start with no cards or with cards that have no value. So they're basically starting from the same playing field, one with like a slightly higher advantage. You still have to start from somewhere, and that, I mean, really, like the only really big way to start like a collection and start with Lego decks is to buy them, and that is, I mean, you can't go out and buy a usable deck for $20. So people always say like, "Oh, Battling Boxers, they're such a budget deck." Yeah, if you just want to run three lead yokes, 3 Utopia, and like 3, I don't know, Diamond Direwolf and a black ship, something like that. But the big issue is that when you go to like when I first started playing, I was that kid that was like, "Oh, I just want to go and have fun." But everybody that says that, I will sooner or later realize that losing all of the time is not fun, and it in fact makes the game seem more bitter. And then they go into that stage where like, oh, you're just a scrub if you have a high dollar deck because you have no talent, and then that's when I start to get annoyed. And I'm not saying everybody needs to shell out for like $100 deck, but Yu-Gi-Oh! To play and to win consistently and to go to locals and like enjoy, because like everybody knows, everybody has a guy at locals, guy or multiple guys. They come in, they have a really poorly built deck, and they have like a zombie deck, and it has like that tower thing and 3 zombie masters and 3 red-eye zombie dragons, and that guy is not going to win. If he scrapes by with like maybe 1 win, like round 1 or something, then yeah, maybe. But that guy is going to lose a handful of times. He's going to get mad. He's not going to come back. He's going to say Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a scrub game, and then he will crawl back a little bit later. Because I did that before. That was me. And when I got a job, that whole like veil that I had over my head of like, oh, everybody uses a high dollar deck as a scrub and blah blah blah, that was gone. I became like a rarity whore. I played nothing but like the top tier decks, and like the first thing I got was like Boojins. I did really well with Boojins, got rid of Boojins, got like a Quasar quick draw deck, did really well with that, got rid of that, got Noble Knights for like a day, got rid of that, got Mermails, got Harpies, and like I just started like rotating between like all of the high dollar decks, and like that is like a really good feeling, and like everybody that and people have bills, obviously, like that's, you know, even people with jobs will have that, you know, have issues that, you know, keep them from spending money in Yu-Gi-Oh, but it's, I guess, like I kind of got off topic there, but like the little guys that don't want to spend money on the game, it's almost impossible to play without spending a decent chunk of change on it, because even if you want to build like a budget deck, and like what's a budget deck right now? Like Battling Boxes, I guess, is a good one, but I need a better example. Light Swarms, right? Because they have all the
Yeah, the
all the, they have
structure
the structure deck.
being out, and you can buy 3.
Structure's about 30.
Yes.
You need staples. You need extra deck cards. You don't need extra deck cards, but to stay afloat, you need a decent amount of extra deck cards. And staples are pricey. Staples can be like $5 a piece. Look at Black Horn of Heaven, or what's a good example of a expensive staple?
Breakthrough skill, but that's included with the structure deck.
And that's a different. Wait, is that with the Lightsworn one?
Yeah, it's a
Oh,
common.
wonderful. Okay. Wiretap is like a good $2 to $5 card, isn't it?
Somewhere around
there. I don't know. Somebody do that price check.
I don't know. It's been a while since I've looked up the price.
But in the end, staples cost money, and the big thing is, like, this is a really big issue, and you know, a lot of people will say like, oh, that card's so cheap, and you know, it'll be easy to find. I've actually found that the cheaper the card, the more of a pain it is to get, because if you want a common card that, like, if you want like I don't know, like a, I'm trying to use an example that doesn't pertain to me, but because I keep wanting to say TG names. If you want like a Gravity Warrior, come on. How many people? Yeah, like, how many people do you see with a Gravity Warrior in their binder? Like, no one. Unless like you meet that one guy that like brings a box of like a backpack full of like commons, like that guy that brings like a bunch of tins full of commons, and
yes.
maybe you want to take a gamble and maybe he'll have one in his binder, or maybe he'll have one in one of those tins, but like then you waste 15-20 minutes looking through his crap to realize he doesn't have one. And it's almost just easier to buy one. Otherwise, you're going to be holding out for a week, and then maybe you don't have the deck that Gravity Warrior is supposed to go into afterwards.
Well, that's actually something else that it's kind of the fun part about it, is like searching through this stuff, because it's like going to an antique shop and you're looking for that one hard to find plate piece, and you just go through this shop, which is like, I don't know, we're just gonna bring up a random number, like 3-story tall building, and you eventually get to it like maybe about an hour and a half later, and you find it. So there, you can easily find other stuff that you never realized existed, and then you splash that in the deck, and it pretty much wins the whole tournament, and then people will start to use that as, you know, a means of playing budget league, like, so. Yeah, I just wanted to at least say that.
Yeah, and it's just, I mean, like I said, I would never discourage anybody from playing, but like, you have to spend money somewhere, and that either goes to, if you want to save it for like a collection. Collections are really expensive though, so that's a really horrible way to start. But
Right.
buying tins and boxes, like, I think buying a box is completely redundant. If you really want a card that bad, you should either buy it, because 9 times out of 10 it'll be cheaper than the box. Sometimes I pulled an Exitin out of one of my boxes, out of the last box I bought, so that was, you know, that I benefited from that. But I think, like, in the long run, I think buying boxes can be like a bit of a waste, because the gamble isn't worth it. You buy 3 boxes hoping to pull like a 101, and you don't pull one out of any of those, and now you're out $100 and some odd dollars. You know, it's not worth it. I think buying a box is more.
Actually, try to weigh your packs and trying to pull out only the hollows, and then just sell the rest of your packs off.
I'm not really against weighing packs either. I mean, if you want to go out, if a store will let you, fine. I mean, Walmart will let you, I guess. But I mean, in the end, like, it's just, I don't know. There's definitely money that needs to be spent in this game because, like, you have to buy tins and packs and everything. And unless you want to get handouts, unless you want to be the guy that asks for handouts, and in which case, good luck with that because you were going to be shammed at your locals. But
I actually do remember the video where it's like your Yu-Gi-Oh channel. He was going around one of the tournaments and he was asking for, oh crap, what was the most expensive card back then? It was like a secret rare. No, wait. He was asking for an Exciton Knight, and people would just look at him funny. It's like, you looking to buy? He's like, no, I want you to give it to me for free, and be like,
you're retarded, dude.
But he would do that with every single rare card that would come out that it's like very high in demand. But I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, and it's just, I mean, you gotta spend money. Like, there's no way around it. And if you want to be the guy that's like, no, I'm not spending money, I'm a budget player. Oh, good luck, man. Good luck. And it always annoys me too because, like, you'll meet that guy that has, let's say, like, again, the Babbling Boxer deck with like 3 Utopias and 3, lead yokes, and it's like, yeah, that'll get you through like maybe round 1 and maybe round 2, but after that, it's like, yeah, you're not getting anywhere, man.
Or yeah, I mean, sometimes like certain decks will randomly place. Like what? I'm trying to think. What's the one deck that we have at locals that has topped pretty well, but it has not been noticed like anywhere else lately?
Probably raccoons.
Well, not raccoon. No. Heraldic Beast. Oh my God, there's.
Heraldic Beasts are really good though.
Yeah,
and once again,
it's really good. But the problem is, I don't think a lot of players have been playing the deck too much recently. But it's just there's only one guy at our locals, and he is an awesome guy. I'm hoping he listens to this. I know Joe might be listening to the podcast, so if you are, hi Joe. But yeah, his deck has done so well. There's like this reborn that brings out 2 things, and it's like a instant Xseed summon. It's just there's so many ins and outs to the deck.
and see, that's a good budget deck for somebody to start out with too. But
I would agree with that. Yeah.
The big issue though is that if somebody wants to do, because everybody comes in here and they want to do well. Everybody wants to top locals. Everybody wants to do well and feel proud of themselves. But even when it comes to budget decks, for you to play, for you to compete and not get wrecked by something that is meta, you have to have something substantial in it that is, once again, expensive, like Exitin and 101 and any other generic rank 4 that has a high dollar card. I haven't played in a while, so I don't know what's come out since then. But and like Heraldic Beast, they're rank 4 spam, so 101 and Exitin would be in there, and things like that. Same as using there's those people, once again, people that annoy the crap out of me. People that are these budget players, and they're like, look, I just don't think the card's very good. Like, Dragosex is not a very good card, and yet they're running, like Dragons, like a budget Dragon deck. And that's just, those people always drive me nuts. Because those are the people that, if you say, like, I just don't want to spend, like, how do I explain this, because I'm losing my words here. No one can ever just say, I just don't feel like spending that much money on a card. Even when I had a job, even like when I sound like a loser right now, but even when I was...
You were a loser? I didn't even notice.
I had to leave my job for school, people, leave me be. Even when I was working and I was making money and spending a lot of money on Yu-Gi-Oh, even then, like, I would not spend mad money on like a single card. If I really needed a card, like if a playset was expensive, I would buy it. Like I bought 2 Mikazuchis whenever they were in their prime. I bought I bought a Bujin core when it was in its prime. That's a core. I paid about $90 for a core, for a Bujin core, and then I paid like $30 for like 2 Mikazuchis, or like $32. But I think they're like 16 at the time. That is, like, I will refuse to pay any money around that on like an expensive card. I got my 101 from Cyber because I traded him a Quasar, like things like that. Like I refuse to pay a lot of money just for like a single card. So I'm at least, it bothers me that somebody who can't spend money on that game, which, once again, that's a lot of people, and that's understandable, can't just say, I just don't want to spend that much money on a card. I just came in to have fun. People just can't say that. People always have to have that, like, oh, no, you're just all scrubs. I'm just using my brain and thinking. Like, that whole attitude just drives me nuts.
And I think that's a good way to stop the topic because I think we went way longer than expected on this.
Yeah, sorry, I ranted a bit there, but that's like one of the worst things about those people.
No, I mean that's what these are for. We usually love to discuss these, but we do have about one last discussion, and then of course we're going to move on to the Q&As, which again, just send them over right now. You should be able to recognize the Gmail account by now. Well, we were mentioning this earlier. World Championship qualifiers in Detroit is today, and there's like a couple of Yugi tubers that are already there. I know Underworld 667's there. Who else is over there? I think Vexicus 467 might be over there. Can't remember who all is, but regardless, prediction time. What type of deck do you guys think's gonna probably take the Nationals this year?
Oh, you know, hat.
Haha. That's funny.
Lightsword and Rulers or Mermills? One or the other.
Yeah, Lightsword and Rulers maybe.
Probably
Mermill.
Lightsword and Rulers. That's what I'm gonna bet on.
I like how Lightsword and Rulers the only change they ever made was just adding Raiden. Like, they don't bother with anything else. Thanks for the one card, guys.
Well, Gary brought up that there was like one tournament that had Mermills that they won first at. Do y'all remember which one that was?
I don't remember which tournament that was, but I know that's been recent.
Are Mermails still going with that crap where they have that? No, I shouldn't say it's crap because it's genius and I love it, but that build with Dragon Ice where they like go for like Beals with the controller and stuff. Is that still a thing?
It might be, but it's been a while since I've seen the deck itself.
That build is amazing. Whoever came up with that needs like a hug.
And a hug over the internet through the podcast. Let's see. Hat is obvious. That's gonna probably be in the top spot. You know, I want to say like Plant E-Dragons might be one of those like dark horse builds that's probably going to be like very surprising because there's like so many things for that deck, like the Lone Fires. Then what is that one special summon continuous spell where it's like it gets a plant from the grave and then just like
Miracle Fertilizer.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. There's that, and then there's like some other stuff that's for it. It's a dumb build. I think another dark horse build is probably going to be Pendulum Scraps, and I know that since the starter deck just came out. Wait, can it be played? Like, can some of the stuff be played?
You need Odd Eyes.
Yeah, you need Odd Eyes.
Okay, well, I was just talking about like just only like without Odd Eyes, but
I don't think it would work really.
Yeah, because that's like a really big like consistency thing.
Okay.
With that deck.
Well, let's see. I can't think of any other decks that might do it.
I mean, it's gonna be the basic stuff: Mermails, Lightsword and Rulers, maybe Mythic Rulers. I mean, maybe we'll. Wait, what?
It'll be Mermills or Lightsword and Rulers. I can just about guarantee. I think those really be. I kind of wish it'd be something else, but I have a feeling it's gonna be one or the other.
Maybe Harpies. Harpies are doing things every so often.
I'll go with like a very random prediction. I'm gonna say Aliens.
That happens. I will rejoin the game the day that happens. If Aliens top, I will rejoin the game.
Well, the thing is, I've had Aliens since, what was it, Cosmic Fortress Golgar first came out, and I started playing it with, like, continuous spell and traps, and it's worked out well. But it's just had that issue where it's slow, and they've had that, Searcher for Reptiles. But other than that, if it does, like, get into the top 10 spot, I will laugh hysterically at that.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
it would be amazing to see that actually topping at, either a regionals or a YCS or heck, even Worlds.
I want to see Gustos do well.
I do too. They're really cool. Although they're cool. I like them. Although I'm really getting sick of people calling them Gustos because it's like, oh, that gust of wind nearly knocked me over.
No, it's ridiculous. Like
That with a strong gust of wind.
attack into Gusto, special summon Gusto. Attack into that Gusto. Okay, special summon another one. All right, attack into that one. Okay, special summon another one.
Well, there's an OTK with that, with Freeze, where you ram all the little things into like one of their beaters until they run out of life points.
There's never an end to the Gusto chain. Like.
No, they're obnoxious. Either you remove one, or you're gonna have a hell of a day.
Ugh.
Probably.
Saber, which one did you want me to download again? YGO Pro or Dev Pro?
YGO Pro.
Okay.
That runs better on my computer.
Okay, I downloaded it.
All right, so World Championship qualifiers to all the people that are at the event for this weekend. If you're listening, we wish you guys the best of luck, and just go kick some ass tomorrow, and just to see what happens during the live stream event on Sunday. Okay, so moving on from there, we are going to go into our little Q&A session that we do before the episode.
Real quick.
What?
Sorry to interrupt you, but real quick, there was a card that was revealed today. I was wondering if we could talk
yes. I'm sorry. Thank you very much for reminding me about that.
I linked it in the chat on Google Plus if you guys want to read it. It's like a new Solemn card, Solemn Advice.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that card's. I'll talk about that later.
It reminds me of a different version of Solemn Warning.
Yeah, it's kind of a mix
Solemn
of
Judgment. Solemn Judgment.
Yeah, I don't know how to feel about that. I mean, it's not. I don't know. If it said pay half, I might be a little bit more inclined.
Unless it's like the one trap you run in the deck, it is. I mean, come on. Let alone playing 3,000 life points. Like I already drew the line at 2,000. Like I hated Solemn Warning and Solemn Judgment. That was like a phase I went through where I hated those cards because I thought the cost was not worth it, and 3,000 is pushing it.
I know. It's just. I mean, while you control no other set cards in your spell or trap card zone, or when a monster would be special summon, or spell or trap card monster effect would be activated, pay 3,000, negate the summon. I mean, that's a card. I mean, I can see someone being like advice. Just like, oh, well, you just paid 3K, wiretap.
You want to get to the gun? It's all back to the gun, man.
It's just like, thank you for that.
Well, the good part is it is an absolute negate, like anything, but just having it as the only set card that's in your spell trap card zone, and then also having to pay 3,000, I'm not too sure the cost is worth what you're really getting out of it.
I don't think so either. I mean, you can't even, if you set that, and if you could set a wiretap beside it, then you could be like, okay, wiretap me, bro, I don't even care. But if it's the only card you have set, and your opponent has like 3 back row, and they're just like, game-winning top deck, you can't do it. You activate it, they go wiretap, you just paid 3K, and you have no other outs, you have no back row, and you may have like a set card or something. It's not a worth it kind of thing.
And Solemn Warning is already pushing it with 2,000 life point sacrifice, because with Judgment, you could pay half, and if they were to activate Wiretap, I mean, it probably wouldn't have been a big of a sacrifice, because you would only be paying 1,000 instead of like 4,000 if your LP was at 2,000. But regardless, I mean, we'll see what happens. But right now, it's a very risky tech choice to actually put into the deck.
If it was just paying the life points and didn't involve the whole, it being the only set card, I would like it a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, I think I could handle the life point loss if you could set other cards with it. I feel like that's a really unnecessary nerf to a card that could have been potentially useful.
I feel like since they did that, they should have made the life point costs like lower, like maybe 1,000 or something, or did something a little different on that. Since you already have to have it as your only set card, I feel like that's already like a big negative for it right off the bat.
Yeah.
But like I said, we'll see what happens. But no description on rarity yet. But again, it'll probably.
Oh, it'll be a secret. I can just have. I have this feeling.
I just want it to be a freaking rare.
It's a super for Japan, so who knows for us.
All right. Well, anyways, we'll see what happens when the set comes out, and just wait to see what they do for rarity on that. But any case, onto Q&A. Again, you guys can send over your questions over to our Gmail account at duelistoftheroundtable@gmail.com. And we've already got 2 lined up. And we're going to go with our friendly neighborhood Mr. Bunny, who sent us a little message last week. This week, it's basically 2 questions in one. First one is, name of the locals you guys go to. Well, obvious one is, well, I actually run a locals called Game On, which is in Muscle Shoals, Alabama.
Game on!
Yeah.
Gary with his advertisement.
I'm sorry, I had to get that out of my body.
Now, we're trying to work on a commercial. We've just been kind of lazy on producing that, but it's on 2000 South Wilson Dam Road in Muscle Shoals. Tournaments usually start at 6 p.m. We're going to try to get them started earlier, but a lot of people work until like 5, get there at 6, but we've got a decent crowd of people, and we're always looking to add new people to play UV over there.
And I go to a really small card shop in Edinburgh, Pennsylvania called Gold Star Anime. It is teeny tiny, but it is, they try. God bless them, they try. They're also, if anybody happens to be in the area, they are open to pretty much start tournaments for any card game as long as you can get like 8 people there. I tried really hard to get them to have Vanguard tournaments, but nobody in my area wants to play that. So, if there's a card game that isn't Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Magic that you want to play, or HeroClix, but that's only a card game, but yeah, if there's a card game that if there's a card game you want to play, and you live in that area, go talk to them about it and rally some people up. They would do it.
For me, I did have a locals, but then they switched to Magic the Gathering, so I have 2 card stores that just do Magic. And then another one has opened up recently, and I actually went to that today just to kind of see what they had. And it's kind of mainly comic stuff, and barely had a Yu-Gi-Oh section. So I'm kind of doubting they really do much Yu-Gi-Oh stuff, unfortunately. They didn't even have like new starter deck, and then so yeah, that was kind of unfortunate. So I don't really have a local, so I don't guess I have to name any of them. But
I'm sure if you went to them and talked to them about it, they'd start one or like consider it.
Maybe, I don't know. And then I used to have to go to Lawton, Oklahoma, for like sneak previews and stuff, and then that's the card store that closed down. So either I'm a jinx or like some kind of bad thing for card stores, or I don't know. I can't find really a locals on any of them. So hopefully I might even have to go like down to Dallas or something if I want to. Like for sneak previews and stuff, I don't know. I'll have to see actually for this next sneak preview what I'm gonna have to do. I don't know if this new card store, I think we're gonna try doing sneak previews, but we'll see. At least it's in the same town as me, and it's only like 30 minutes away versus Dallas being a pretty good ways.
Well, that's the other weird thing is the fact that people on YouTube think that you don't even do locals at all.
I don't really have too much option. It's, you know, that's the only bad part. I'm more casual, I guess, too, than most YouTubers on stuff. But yeah, I mean, I don't really have too much choice unless I want to drive a pretty good ways. And with I work like almost all the time on my other stuff, so it's kind of hard to find time to do that. And you know, of course, with gas and everything else.
Gas is the biggest thing that like keeps you from going to locals.
That too, yeah. That's a main problem, but time seems to be a big problem because I have my own business, of course, outside of the YouTube stuff that I'm, you know, self-employed and working on that. So that takes a lot of time. I work on signs and stuff and make those for a living, so it's kind of hard. You never know when you're going to have something new to work on or have to work overtime. So I work weekends most of the time even. So it's hard to find time for that kind of stuff on going to a local, especially, you know, if it was closer, it wouldn't be a problem. You know, if it was in the same town as me. But being like 2 hours and more away from me, that's, you know, I'll have to see. I might try talking to that store that's kind of close to me, though, and see if they're planning on doing more. I think they were going to have a sneak preview, so maybe something will happen on that. I don't know. No promises, really.
All right.
I want to start my own card store, though.
Well, I think a lot of people would probably jump all over that if he did.
I would move down there just for that.
I'm actually debating on it. I've been looking at some stuff, and that's actually something that might be possible. So I'm kind of looking through everything and seeing if I can make it happen, because I could also do my sign stuff there as well. So
a friend of mine and his buddy want to open a card shop, and they've kind of come to me every so often. So like if you would help us, you could become a potential like co-owner of it. So I mean, I'm only 19, so like I don't want to like be the dumb kid that would jumped into this because to be honest, one of them, not my friend, but his friend is a really big stoner, and I don't know him all. That's like all I know about him. So it doesn't really reinforce the idea of it doesn't make me any more comfortable with it,
Yeah, I have kind of a problem with that too, because on kind of the opposite thing on that is because I'm the only one that could really work on it, because I don't really have any other friends that play the game anymore, except for my brother that plays, but like he's always of course because he's in the Navy, so he'll be actually going to California within the next month and staying down there for a couple of years. So I'll have to either find some people down here that want to work with me, or basically just do it myself.
All right, and the other question that they were wanting to ask is, can I get another hug? And it's in quotes, no cyber, I won't settle for a fist bump.
Oh, cyber.
But I don't have my webcam on. I don't know how I'm supposed to hug you.
I'm in the dark. I can't do it. I'm sorry.
My room's a mess. That's the reason I don't have my webcam on.
Wait, why exactly are you in the dark, Dave?
Because I don't know. I was sitting in my room when when it was daylight outside, and now it's not.
It's kind of depressing.
That's pretty terrible.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
I don't know. I'm hugging you in spirit, I guess. I can't really. I don't have webcam
I'm
either.
you in spirit, and he has a really like raging spirit boner while he does it.
I thought that was implied.
All right. Okay, this question is from Tippy Craft. Very interesting name, by the way. This is a really good question they brought up. I was wondering, since Shadows are around the corner, if Noblemen of Crossout will be a really good card to hurt them.
Yes.
Yes.
Sorta.
I think it would probably hurt them pretty good because there are cards that use flip effects, and that will probably slow them down like really good. But I mean, that just only depends like if it's the type of mirror match you're facing off against.
That kind of deck, the kind of deck is one I call it. I don't know. I just call it meta rotators because I mean that's basically what it is. It's going to rotate the meta around a little bit. And what it's going to do is it's going to encourage more people to run more pop power decks, like Insectors, and I can't remember anything else besides Insectors at the moment. And, wait, Cyber, name another deck that pops cards like Insectors.
To what? I'm sorry.
Name another deck that like has a lot of like pop power, like it does a lot of like Insector stuff.
Gary said Fire Fist.
Fire Fist.
There you go, Fire Fist. Fire Fist is a lovely example.
Artifacts.
It's going to encourage decks like that to be more popular. I think maybe Nobleman will be like a tech you could try like in your side deck, but
I agree.
Even then it's like they have a good stun card, and after that they're not too challenging as long as that thing doesn't get in your way.
Right.
Basically, it's always been a really good card. Just you never really had anything to use it against. But I can see it coming back for that and actually being usable again. I can see that actually.
I do. I mean, it's a sickeningly consistent deck as it is, Shadows. So you're gonna see a lot of the same cards coming through a lot. And if you have that Nobleman in your hand and you can just like get rid of that problem right away, then you won't have to worry about it for most of the duel, really.
I can pretty much ripple them too if you do it just right on there. That would make it where they couldn't, use a lot of their cards.
How do I respond to a comment in this damn thing? Okay,
the-
Dylan Harvey, I don't want to put land in my room. I can't. I tried to type a comment to you, but I couldn't. It wouldn't let me do it.
All right, and
Hang on, I'll move and I'll turn on my light. Jeez.
Also, somebody wants us to use Bankai.
who wants us to use?
Well, if you insist.
Simply Yu-Gi-Oh.
Oh, simply Yu-Gi-Oh?
Okay.
If I use Bankai, though, I'll tear up my house.
I admit there are days where I'll sit there and say Bankai and random voices to myself, but that's just normal, right?
Nobody does that.
Wait, Cyber, you can't be that much threatening to other people.
Oh, trust me.
You watch wrestling?
I'm evil.
And I makes Gundam figures.
And I have retro video games. A Mushroom Bankai, that'd actually be pretty funny.
Mushroom Bankai. And on comes the camera.
Alright, anyways, and of course, our last question of the night is from Yu-Gi-Oh! Phoenix. Are you happy with the new ban list, or are you disappointed in lack of change and not hitting any deck in the meta?
Rhoda to 2!
Oh my gosh.
Rhoda to 2!
Man. Rhoda at 2 is awesome. But yeah, it is. They did slow down Gear, but I don't think he does mention this in the comment. They slowed down Gear, but not hit Gear. So I can agree with that. I feel like Gear going to 1 definitely sort of slows it down, but I don't really know a lot of people, who are gonna give really any care about that. I mean, the deck is pretty consistent as it is, and there are a lot of other ways to get ridiculous plays off without Gear. Gear was just the cherry on top. Your trap lineup. It's like, oh, by the way, in phase, I'm gonna fill up my field real fast. No big deal.
And we still have 1, so I mean,
Yeah.
Come on.
Aren't they
The
still
only
missing
issue.
3 cards?
Yeah.
Aren't they still missing the other XC? And
Yeah, they are.
Yes,
unfortunately.
I think they're still missing cards too, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
I don't know how I feel about that. But that's a little off topic. But it's 3 of them. I think it's like 3 level 3 monsters or something. It's a little bit too much, especially when you
Wait,
run
3 what?
Yu-Gi-Oh! Gear.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's a really freaking good card. Like, there's no doubt about it. It's a broken card.
Oh yeah.
I thought there'd be some sort of, like, limit to it, like something, like you can only use, like you have to pay life points or something along the lines of that. You can use 1 per turn, something like that. No.
Basically what I think on the ban list, I mean, I was hoping Ravine might come back to 1, since it did for the OCG. I feel like that might be possible next list.
Oh, you just want your Dragoonities to be back on top again.
Can I get a help?
Yes, I do. But other than that, really, I think I said this last time too, the list didn't change much because, it's only going to last like a couple months, 2 months and a half, something like that. So, honestly, it wasn't going to be any big changes. They weren't going to do much to it. I mean, soul charging going to get hit whenever it's going to be a list like that, or, other things that I've seen mentioned. So, I think next list is going to be the one that will be the big game changer. It's going to be after Nationals. We're going to see whatever does well will probably be hit. And then we'll start seeing stuff like that. I mean, I like the Rhoda at 2 because that helps Noble Knights and Heroes. Those are like 2 of my favorites that I'm going to be using. Can't wait till Master Heroes. Hopefully we get those in the TCG soon. And Dimensional Prison to 3. I thought that was kind of interesting. I wish we could get Compulse back to at least 3 or 2 because that's probably my favorite trap card to use.
Yeah.
And other than that, I really don't have any complaints or anything. Like I said, I would have liked to see Ravine, but I guess something would probably have to happen to Dragon Rulers, possibly, before that happened. But I'm not sure. And unfortunately, I guess nobody brought back Stratos. I gotta say that.
Also,
It's not gonna come back. The thing, Hero stuff is really good. It's not game breaking. It's not game breaking, but it's really good. Like, it's really freaking good. And we don't need Stratos back.
But here's the thing that aggravates me about that. All right. Yeah, I know Stratos is really good and everything, but it aggravates me to no end that Japan still has Stratos, and they have the new. They just got the structure deck. We don't even have the structure deck yet, and then they get rid of Stratos for us. I mean, I know he's still good for us, but it's just kind of like they're getting to use the new Master Heroes with Stratos. Whenever it gets over here, I don't know if we're probably going to be able to, because more likely Stratos will still be banned. I assume. I mean, things can change.
Well,
the thing is,
though,
It's so aggravating.
They'll probably.
So Japan's meta is really different. Japan's meta is really different.
Oh no, I mean, Konami how they are. I mean, they always end up making cover cards. For example, like the Solemn Advice from earlier in the podcast. Like, they got rid of Solemn Judgment. They give us Solemn Advice. they got rid of Substitute and they put what was his replace? I can't remember. Trade Toad or something.
Swap the frog or
They
something.
always take broken cards, ban them, and then give us a nerfed version. Me and Joe, who we mentioned earlier in the podcast, also we were talking about that one afternoon. So I can see them coming up with something very Stratos-y for them.
They already did. It was that Shadow Mist horrible card.
That's actually a really good card, but the thing that's
Pretty good.
that's going to need to happen is that we'll need some kind of other wind attribute hero monster that's good. Because since the new masked hero, is it Kamikaze? I think it's Kamikaze. And there's not really a good wind monster to use to change into that masked hero, without Stratos, of course. So, something will need to happen on that.
But I think it is kind of notable to say we do have 2 Rhoda now, so maybe that could be their answer for us anyway. So.
All right. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the questions for this week. Thanks to everybody that sent in your questions, and be sure to send them in for next week's if you can think of any. So that's pretty much it for the podcast. We did this for exactly 1 hour. That's really, really surprising.
Achievement
We
unlocked.
were over like a lot last week.
I have an offer to finish of a way to finish this off. And I'm doing this once because you've got me in on the mood that we're talking. So let's turn on their webcam. I'll duel them.
Well, my room's all torn up, so I really can't.
Point your webcam down.
Well, in any case, we're going to go ahead and end the podcast for tonight. And like I said, if you guys have any questions for next week's episode, just be sure to email them over to duelistoftheroundtable@gmail.com. And once again, thanks to everybody that was on the podcast tonight, and to all of our viewers, all 10 of you that are watching right now. That's like a hell of a number for tonight. So, best of luck to everybody at World National Championship qualifiers, and we hope to see you next week on the next Duelist of the Roundtable cast.
Also, real quick, before we end,